What are you training for?
Life.
Welcome to Train for Life, a podcast brought to you by ISI Elite Training. I'm Adam Rice, founder and CEO, and we'll be hosting this alongside Amanda Hall, our COO. Tune in weekly as we explore topics on personal and professional development to help you level up in all aspects of your life. We call this Training for Life.
Welcome back to another episode of Train for Life, the podcast where we dive deep into mindset, leadership, and habits that fuel high performers inside the gym and far beyond it. We've got a powerhouse guest with us today, back for the second time. Someone who has not only helped transform thousands of fitness businesses across the globe, but who lives and breathes what it means to raise the standard. Mike Arce is the founder of Loud Rumor, a leading marketing agency that's helped over 2,600 gyms and studios in 10 countries scale through cutting edge strategies like local SEO, social media, marketing, YouTube, and more. He's built a team that's driving serious results like 89% growth in just 12 months and a mind-blowing 270% ROI for the gyms that partner with Loud Rumor.
And man, I got to come in on the second part here and really bring it home. So what really stands out about Mike is his heart for small business owners. Getting to know Mike over the past years, couldn't say that more. His journey started with turning around underperforming clubs, launching a personal training company, and eventually building Loud Rumor from the ground up back in 2009. Putting age on you, Mike. Today, he's not just a marketing expert. He's a business leader, speaker, and now a freaking author. Let's go. That's right. Mike's new book, The Standard Is You, is a powerful wake-up call for entrepreneurs and leaders who are ready to take full ownership of their success. Not just about business tactics. It's about who you become in the process. So buckle up. Whether you're a fitness coach, franchise owner, or someone committed to leveling up, this conversation is going to challenge you, inspire you, and equip you to raise your own standard. So let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome back, Mike.
Man, it feels good to be not having to be way out in the East Coast to do this, though. I get to stay in my hometown. I like it.
Where is home for you? I know, but share where home is for everybody else.
I'm in Arizona, and it's June, so it's 100 degrees out. It's hot.
So it sounds like you'd be better off here on the East Coast. I don't know.
You know, I know.
Here in Arizona is different.
We got a pool. It's summer break. This is actually a really fun time for the family.
Love it. Well, cool. I'll kick us off here. Really excited to jump into this. We as we were preparing for this, I think really looking into the message of this, I think the thing I'm most excited about, number one, I'm gonna learn some things. Number two is I think this can resonate not with just entrepreneurs, but with a huge audience that we have as far as, whether it's leaders of locations, head coaches, facility managers, and obviously franchise partners as well. So give us a quick just rundown of why did you start this book? What does The Standard Is You even mean to you? Like, how's the process been? It launches on June 7th, right?
Yes.
So we were like 4 days away as we're filming this, which is really exciting. So kind of give us that full rundown.
Okay, so for everyone watching or listening, what I'll tell you right now is this book was written for you. Now, you might say, well, what does that mean for me? It's for everybody. Well, when I say it's for you, if you're listening to this podcast, it's because you want to be better. And so, yes, it's for you. The person that's like watching, Lost for the fifth time, maybe not as much for that person, right? But what I will tell you is this book was written less for the entrepreneur and it was written more for the employees, which means it's also for the entrepreneur. Now, it doesn't mean the book is specifically for him or her to read. It could be, but it's more so that when your people read this book, both of you are going to win a lot better. So I've been very, very, very blessed to work with over 4,000 businesses, actually close to 5,000 when you think outside of just the gym space as well. And I've been able to work intimately with close to 400, meaning like I know their people. And I've yet to see a gym or a business that does very, very well, hits all their goals, and doesn't have great people. And I've yet to see a team that has great people and doesn't hit goals. It doesn't happen. Everybody's looking for the right marketing pitch, or, how can I get the right product, or how can I get the right this? But at the end of the day, let's say you have this really, really great offer, or you have this really, really great product, but your people are silent about it, or they're not talking about it. Or when they come into the gym, they don't really understand it well. They don't know how to break it down, or maybe they're not even holding the standard in many cases that you've set up in your gym or your business. It doesn't matter. It's going to fall apart. If you go to Apple, those guys live it. Apple lives Apple, right? So this book was written for the employees, which benefits both parties, the entrepreneur and the employee. I've seen employees that have gone from making part-time, maybe 10 to 12,000 a year, to earning over $100,000 a year in a facility simply by becoming an A player, which in here there's 13 rules to become an A player. What I'll also share is a lot of people think that they're A players and they're not. And with these 13 rules, you need all 13 checked to be an A player. You can't have 12 and then be like, well, I'm like an A minus. No, you're a B plus at best, but you have to have all 13. And if you have all 13, you're locked in, you're good to go. Now, the benefit of that is the person that you listening, you watching right now, if you want to earn more money, I don't care what side of the wall you're on, whether you're an entrepreneur, you're an employee, if you want to earn more money, this is it. This is like the way that you start seeing things. It will change the way you look at things and the income will follow.
Talk a little bit, I think, from a standpoint of, obviously you're bringing this from lessons learned, right? And what you've seen work, I think, amongst teams. And I think oftentimes, I think you said this at the beginning, like it is for an entrepreneur, but it's not just for the entrepreneur, it's for everybody on the team. So out of the 13 rules, I think, kind of break that down. Like when you say like you need all 13 rules to be an A player, like if I'm hearing that, I'm thinking, for one, what are the 13 rules? Obviously, got to read the book. But at the same time, like when I think through the lens of like an A player, do you think that everyone has the potential to be an A player and this book can get them there? Or do you think that this essentially, because you hear this all the time, you want all A players on your team, maybe that's not realistic. So how did this kind of, when you talk about to be an A player, and I've heard you say this, like you can have an A player on a team, maybe with a B plus, but you're not going to have A players who stick around if they're not on A playing team. So talk about kind of a little bit about your mindset behind that A player mentality as it relates to writing this book.
Yeah, so the answer to the first question is I do think everyone can be an A player. I just don't think everyone can be an A player on any team they wish. So I think I'm an A player given the team. Put me on the Lakers, I'm not an A player. And it's not that I don't want to be. It's not that I don't really.
Right.
I'm going to kill myself out there, right? I'm going to sweat. I might even get hurt. I'm working so hard, but I promise you, I'll lessen their chances of winning that game. So it doesn't mean that I'm not good. It's just, where are you good? And so for the people that are listening or watching, first you have to make sure that you're actually doing something that you love and you believe in. That's important. Because if you don't love it and you don't believe in it, you're not going to commit to the work that it takes to be an A player. It's part of it. So that's number one. Now, once we check that box and you go, yeah, I love what I'm doing, whatever it is, let's call it a gym. I love working and helping people reach their goals. And I feel like this is what I'm meant to do. And fitness is part of my life. It's part of who I am. Well, then great. So now from there, we've got 13 rules. And I think there's a lot of, people that ask questions, whether it's to me, I've asked a question in my past to others as well. Like, what does it take to be successful? And you can have all these ideas and they're not all wrong. Read more, journal in the morning, get clear on what your vision is, work hard, that 5 to 9, 9 to 5 thing, right? You can have all these ideas, but the truth is none of those are going to work unless you get one thing working first. Because I've never seen anybody be able to do all those things without this one. And that is protect the people that you're hanging around with the most. See, what happens is if I want to eat healthier, but I live with people that eat junk food, it's very different than if I live with 5 people obsessed with living till they're 130. Can you see it?
Yeah, so true.
If I want to be around, if I want to learn music better, you put me in a house where I live with 5 musicians that eat, sleep, and dream music versus people that just want to play video games all day. I'm going to pick up things And I'm naturally going to like take interest in new ways of thinking around it. My thinking is going to change. And so if you want to be successful, all those things you read about habit development, all those things are true, but you're going to likely fail unless you're hanging around people and you're creating that environment where you're hanging around more people that are also focused on that. Because then you don't have to work so hard.
Right.
I think about it, like, how does slang become slang? Like I got my kids saying Sigma and
We were just talking
all
about this.
no one, they didn't train for that. You hang around people that say Sigma, you're gonna start saying Sigma. You don't even have to work hard. You hang around people that want to have a hungry mindset, a positive outlook, want to wake up early. You're not good. It's going to be hard to sleep in. So, number one is protecting your environment. Now, that's not a specific rule. That's not one of the 13 rules. But what I will tell you is if you really want to take these 13 rules seriously and you want to make it easier for you to be successful, give this book to somebody that you want to also be an A player with, and you guys lived it. My best case scenario is a team reads this as a book club, and throughout the week, they're reading a chapter. A chapter takes 10 minutes to go through, right? They're small chapters. And then you're talking about it every week for 5-10 minutes, getting everybody's perspective. What did you take away from this chapter? What did you take away? I think that's the easiest way to be successful in any of these rules.
Love it. I think, I mean, I haven't read the book yet, so I don't know. But from doing a little bit of research in our conversations, when you talk a lot about systemization in that, and how do you how do you go from again, whether it's an owner or whether it's a, because I think there are a lot of owners specifically in our audience, right? There's also a lot of leaders in our audience, and how do you and we're in the service based, right? So a lot of their success depends on people at the end of the day. Like they can't get there without people. So how do you, when you look at it from a leadership perspective, because the standard is you in an entire, how do you say it without going too deep into the book? What do you mean by that?
I can go deep into the book. I mean, the reason it's called The Standard Is You
Yeah,
is because you can't avoid being the standard. So I'll give you a great example of what just happened. I just flew to where was I? Austin. I was asked to speak at a franchise event in Austin, and on my way back, I go to the bath. You get off the flight. First thing you do is you go to the bathroom. Or at least first thing I do is I go to the bathroom. I drink a lot of water throughout.
Same.
And so I am in the urinal with like 4 or 5 other guys, and I finish, I guess, around the same time as some other guy, maybe a split second before. And this guy has to go by me to go out the door. And he's about to, but I kind of get in his way because I'm not going out the door. I'm going to the sink. This man was not going to go to the sink. He was going to go out the door. So what happened? Well, what happened was he realized that I wasn't going out the door because I intercepted his path. And then he goes, and what do you think he did? He washed his hands because there was this realization like, oh shit, I'm not going to be that guy. Right.
yep,
So he wash it. But if I walked out the door, he would have walked out the door. Okay. Now, here's the other interesting thing about it. When I was washing my hands, I actually tested him even further. I put soap in and I went and I watched each finger really, really well. And I'm watching this guy use a soap. This is a guy that was about to walk out the door. Another example is I was at Lifetime Fitness where I work out. Now, this is where the culture was so bad, it actually changed my standard. Right now, Lifetime Fitness is a great gym. I like it, but those kettlebells have no organization. It gives me anxiety because the way I keep my gyms, like everything's clocked to noon, facing out, like it's always ready for a picture if it needs to be, right? I go there, I go to rack my kettlebells because I'm in a class, right? I do one of those alpha strength classes. I go to rack my kettlebells and I realize that everything's all over the place. My instinct is to put them where they're supposed to go and face them out. And I'm like, for what? And I just put them wherever I had space and I moved on. That changed me, right? So the standard is you is if you're the person that lets the phone ring off the hook 15, 20 seconds, other people are going to let it ring off the hook. If somebody walks in the door and you don't come from around the counter to come and say hi and greet the person with genuine enthusiasm, like if this was your house and they showed up, then other people are going to do the same thing too. So the reason it says it's called the standard is you is because you are, if you're in a big company, a little bit less, but if you're in a small company, 20 employees or less,
Mm.
yeah, like it's very easy to just walk by, like leave the door open or drop some in the sink, not wiping down the sink and making it look, really nice for the next person that uses the sink in your facility. Like the next person's not going to do it either. So yeah, that's the overall concept. However, all of these specific rules, which a lot of them are very unique, meaning it's not the stuff that everyone talks about. So like work hard, do your best. That's like expected. So those are standards at this point. Those aren't what do you call it? Like anything that makes you better than the norm. One of the
What
things
is your what is one of the rules, and do you have a favorite? I'll ask you that.
I absolutely have a favorite.
And
But like
why?
like my children, my favorites vary throughout the month. So uh, my current favorite and the one that's probably my favorite the most is manage up. And so here's something that I think a lot of people forget. And this is for the employees that are listening right now. And for you owners, share this with your people. As an employee, we forget to put ourselves in the shoes of the owner. And if we put ourselves in the shoes of the owner more often, or our manager, if we're front desk or something, or a manager, we would behave differently. So, for example, Adam, if I worked for you, I'm expecting things. I'm expecting you to help me get better, help me develop, put tools in place so that I can, eventually be more successful, right? Give me everything I need to win. But I never think about you as a typical employee. I never think about how do I make Adam better. So I have this employee, Patrick, who's been with me for 8 years. And I remember I had a meeting with my entire team. It was a state of the company meeting. And I thought it went great. I thought everything I said landed perfectly. I even asked at the end, any questions, any comments, concerns? Nobody said anything. Patrick comes into the room after, one-on-one. He goes, "Hey, man, can I share something with you real quick?" And I said, "Yeah." Now, Patrick and I have trust, right? Which is important. You develop that through these kind of conversations. I said, "Hey," he goes, "Hey, when you started talking about this, I think you lost everyone."
Mm.
And I said, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Well, we have a couple people in the room that are already doing this. So I think they didn't pick it the way you heard that you meant to say it." And I said, I didn't even think of that." And he goes, "I know you didn't. I know you didn't, but I feel like it could have rubbed some people the wrong way. So I just think it's something to be cognizant of and maybe something to address in the next meeting." And I said, "You think I should do a Slack message or do you think I should do it in the next meeting?" He's like, "No, no, no, it's not that big of a deal, but in the next meeting, just bring up what you meant so that other people don't take it the wrong way, because I think a couple people might." And I said, "Yeah, it's a good point." I thanked him. We moved on. That person on my team is the most valuable player on my team now. Now, keep in mind, I have handfuls of people that do that because in the meeting, I said, "Hey guys, Patrick came into my office yesterday and he really helped coach me on a couple things. And in particularly one thing that I said in a meeting that through my lens, I didn't look at it through your lens. And I think it could have been misinterpreted. So I wanted to clear up what I meant and what I didn't mean." And I explained and they all think, now here's the cool thing. That unlocked the door for other people to do what Patrick did. It created the safety. Patrick now did the standard. So if an employee was going to put themselves in the owner's shoes, the question to ask is, do you think you're going to be perfect as a leader at all times? Obviously, their answer is going to be no. In the moments that you're imperfect and unknowingly imperfect, would you find value in a team member that had the courage to come to you with all great intentions and share what you didn't see to help you rectify or be better on the next one? Yeah, of course. Excellent. You be that person. Because it's not only about them making you better, make them better. We all want to work for the greatest boss on earth. Well, then help him develop as a boss. Don't look for another better boss. Make the boss you've got better. He needs your help.
I love that. I love that. I think when I know you from like just your history and leadership and obviously we gave the whole intro, right? You've worked a lot, like not just building a company of your own of teams, but you've worked a lot with other gyms around, and you own, some of your own. So I know you know this intimately. So what if someone's listening to this today, because I love what you said about I'd love a team to read, like if anything, a team reads this together and they take this away, like if I'm listening to this, because we obviously are following here, right, is a lot like from this industry, right? We've got several of our owners and team members and leaders listening to this. What would be something that you would say, like, hey, I wrote this book because I went through this? Because I think some of them are listening saying, like, they may be in one of those pain points. And I know that you know these, like, oftentimes where you feel whether you're, let's just talk first to the owner, right? Like, this is a book you need for you and your team because you're probably hitting these plateaus or these areas that you're not seeing that, you know, whether it's a standard or a choice, right? But that standard that's being set isn't giving you the outcome you want. What are some things that you've either personally experienced or that when you were writing this book, you really wrote it with that, with that in mind?
Well, it's funny you say like whether it's a standard or a choice. I think more than 90% of our activity is subconscious. So I don't think a lot, even though it looks like a choice
Mm,
from the outside, I don't think a lot of behavior that's happening from the employees are choice as much as they're just autopilot ways of operating,
right.
autopilot ways of thinking, autopilot's way of judging, right? A situation, a person, whatever. I think it's autopilot, which is again why it's so important to be around people that are a different way because it changes your autopilot.
So good.
I remember watching the show on Netflix, El Chapo, and I was like halfway through it, and I told my wife, I was like, I'm done with this. She's like, why? I was like, everything in this show is just like terrible. It's just like negative. It's all ego driven stuff. And I started watching The Chosen instead. And
Mm,
I can feel myself seeing things differently as opposed to the other one where it's like it makes you think about how respect and ego and all that. In this one, you're always thinking about perspective and what are you feeling, little tiny moments that you don't think about, like for example, if let's say one of you was late to a meeting with me, it'd be very easy for me to even be technically sound, but it's there by me saying something like, hey, I'm glad you're able to make it in, right? Like something like that. Or hey, I was wondering if you were coming. Or hey, I was wondering if I got the email invite wrong. That technically on paper seems fine, but we did sting the person a little bit, didn't we?
right.
Now we could think we're stinging them to train them or to help you understand you got to respect my time. But what if you just said, hey, I'm so glad you made it. Well, I'm sorry I'm late, man. This. Hey, listen. I'm just glad you're here. Don't worry about it. Whatever reason you're late doesn't matter to me. I've been there. So I'm just glad you're here. This is meaningful for me. That alone, the difference in that. So I think definitely there's a whole rule. One of the rules is your perspective, which it's this, right? Like when you understand the perspective a little differently, all of a sudden your behavior shifts without you intending to do it.
Mm,
I really quick. There's a parable that I use that every time I use this, just so you know, I just did it on an event. Somebody cries. Somebody in the event cries. And I'm not saying one of you two is going to cry, but someone cries.
it'll definitely be Adam.
So, so here's the parable of how important perspective is. Okay, so this guy, he has to go to the DMV for whatever reason, and he's really unhappy about the fact that he has to be at the DMV because if you've been there before, you know how not fun it is. And so, to be productive, he decides I'm going to bring a book and I'm going to read while I'm here. So he's sitting there reading, waiting for his number to be called, and there's these three little kids that just keep like bumping into him and stepping on his white shoes. They got peanut butter jelly fingers. They're hitting his book, and he looks over at their mom, who's right next to him, and she's just scrolling on her phone. And so, annoyed, he starts making passive aggressive sounds like, or, "Ooh, watch it, careful," or, "Oh, guys, careful," to get mom's attention without actually having to confront mom. Mom continues to scroll. Now, really quick, and I usually ask the audience here, what do you think about mom right now? entitled, bad mom, not focused on her kids, too self-absorbed in whatever she's scrolling through. And what do you think about the kids? Spoiled, brats, entitled. Finally, he can't take it anymore. And he goes, I'm sorry, ma'am, can you please just get your kids? They're stepping on my shoes. They're bumping into all these people here. Like, just please, you're on your phone, watch the kids. She looks up at him and her eyes are bloodshot. You can tell she's been crying. And she says, I'm so sorry. Kids, come here, come here. I'm so sorry, sir. Their father just passed away yesterday. I've not really in charge of this kind of stuff. I've got to figure out what this means
Wow.
next. I'm planning the funeral. I'm telling family as much as I can, and I've got to get everything switched over. I'm really sorry. It won't happen again. Kids, come here. Now, what do you think this man thinks about that woman now? Strong, a
Yeah.
rock,
Yep.
getting it done. She's probably mourning herself, but she's got to take care of things. What do you think he thinks about the kids? Feels bad for him, knows the road that's coming along, right? Normally has dad there, doesn't have dad today. Now, all of a sudden, this man who was annoyed, considering sitting on the other side of the room, gets his phone and goes, Hey, kids, look at this. And he starts showing them a video to entertain them, keep them busy, give mom a little bit of a break, and says to mom, Hey, just so you know, if you need any help with this, I've got a couple friends that could help out with certain things and maybe it could be useful. Nothing changed. The kids were still running into stuff, bumping into stuff, knocking his book over. The woman was still on her phone scrolling instead of controlling him. Nothing changed except for his understanding of the situation. And now all of a sudden, his behavior drastically shifted from annoyed, wanting to move to the other side of the room, to wanting to get more engaged. And so I think perspective, which is one of the things we talk about, and really helping the entire team gain a higher level of understanding and perspective so they can assume there might be more to the situation than they know. I think that's a very important part of being an A player.
Mm, love it. What I'm gonna just ask kind of a question that I think I've gone through as an owner of a business, and I think a lot of other owners go through, specifically I think even in service-based businesses. But where, I think one of the common themes that we can see in this space, in this industry, and just as businesses as a whole, is you have these business owners, and then you have these employees, and there's this lack of accountability, right, at the end of the day, down to the employee. And it's almost to a point where they're willing to hurt their business before they are willing to have a hard conversation, right, or set a standard. And I don't think this is very I think systemic within this space, because it is a people space. And so I'm curious, like, how you would take an owner who has an amazing heart, just a big vision, but is really handcuffed by, oh my God, if this person leaves, I don't even know what I'm gonna do, type thing. And so they're definitely playing on defense, right? And they've created a culture of that. And then at the end, I want to talk about the system, or the don't let me forget, because this just came in, but the standard of the people that you hire is the other thing I want to go into. But I'm curious, like, what advice would you have for business owners that maybe they're like, yeah, that's me, and they're literally willing to continue to be in pain versus have a tough conversation and make some moves because they're unsure of what's on the other side of that.
So there's this other story of a dog that's on a porch and he's laying on a nail crying because this nail is hurting him. And this guy asks this guy, Hey, what's wrong with your dog? He's like, Oh, he's laying on this nail. And he goes, Why doesn't he just move? He goes, It doesn't hurt enough yet. And so a lot of times it's not that we're not feeling pain, but the pain of change is still not greater than the pain of staying the same. We'd rather stay the same than go through the work of facing our demons or whatever it is that we've got to adjust, read a book, be involved in a group of people that maybe you're strange to them. And so you've already self-labeled yourself as an introvert. And so that's your identity now. And you don't want to get out there and shake hands with people that don't have these issues or used to have them and don't have them anymore. And I think that's going to be your biggest issue. So if you're unhappy with how your leadership is, resulting in what happens with your team, well, you've got to ask, how bad does it really hurt? If I'll tell you right now, I said it earlier, I think we started the episode this way. You want to be prepared more, hang around people that are prepared, because it's just going to be easy to have that conversation. My manager, sorry, not my manager, my partner, who's an operating partner for one of my gyms, we're opening up our next gym. It's going to be at least a year. We haven't even found a location yet. And she's already got 2 ideal managers lined up. Great for backups if one of ours currently leaves, but if not, we're already ready for the next one. And she's always recruiting. But here's the thing. If, let's say, she's in the room with somebody that you're talking about and they say, yeah, I'm just really afraid to lose her. You don't have a backup? No. How do you not have a backup? And then he talks to another person. Yeah, I'm just, I don't know how to get her in the right spot. I got to get her more motivated. Well, your job's not to motivate. Your job's to give her all the things that she needs to succeed and get out of her way. You don't hire people and motivate them. You hire motivated people and give them the tools. Really? Yeah, man, you just might need to make a replacement. Maybe it's not for them. Oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have a backup. How do you not have a backup? Right? So little by little, all of a sudden, this sounds normal. The reason people will spend $400 to $800 a month on a car and commit to that for 60 months, 72 months, but they won't invest $99 on Udemy or some online course that can actually make them money, something that doesn't decline in value over time like a car does, is because most of their friends don't do that and do this. Because all their friends are spending $600, $700 in a car they can't afford or shouldn't have to have, it makes them feel safe about having that expense as well. Because who's going to judge them? Your circle does it. So sometimes we're afraid to change our circle, but our circle's important.
Love that. So your approach really, from what I'm hearing, is the tactical is all incredibly important, but the how to's obviously a piece of the pie, but it's going to be nearly impossible because you're going to fall to the level of your personal systems, right? And I think that's if you haven't achieved with what you want to achieve yet at this point, then you can't fall to the level of your own systems, which means you need to get around other people. Is that what I'm hearing?
100%. Yeah. And, here's the thing with people too. And I learned this lesson through training my dog. If you guys, either of you have dogs?
Yes.
Great.
Puppy phase.
Are either of them trained, like well trained? Are any of your dogs trained?
We're in the process.
You're in the process. Getting trained, or you training them yourself?
No, I'm training her myself. Give me your tips. I need them all.
So here's the biggest tip you could have, and what I learned. You don't train the dog. You train yourself, and then your relationship with the dog changes because there's only one way to behave for you now. So for example, I learned that my instincts were wrong about dog training. Made sense inside the box, but when I got trained for real, which by the way, I use ChatGPT, I realized that there were a lot of things I was doing wrong. For example, if a dog made a mistake in the house and I caught it, I would say, come here, to bring the dog over so I can show him the thing. But then all of a sudden later on, when I told the dog to come, it didn't want to come. Why? Because it relates, when I say the word come,
to punishment now. Yeah.
So I now know I can never say the word come unless, no matter what happens when he gets over here, I've got to pet him, I've got to praise him. It always has to tie to something good. Always. That's one example of like a dozen or so that I've learned. You don't train the dog, you train the trainer. And then the relationship with the dog is shifted. You just operate differently. You don't train your employees, you train the owner. When the owner learns how to lead differently, all of a sudden he can't help but be a certain way. So if you were to come to me with a problem, say, hey, we have a manager or we have a trainer that's calling in sick. His class starts in an hour. What do you want me to do? Okay. If you're not trained, you're going to either solve the problem or you're going to talk through it poorly with them. If you're trained, your instinct is going to be, well, what did you come up with? Right? honestly, if you're trained, that would have never happened because a person would have came to you with a solution already because you would have
Right.
had your bucket, right? So same thing with your kids. You don't train the kids, you train yourself. I've seen parents that know all the right things to do, but they don't do them. I've coached 35 seasons of youth sports, and I've heard parents complain about their jobs. I've heard them on the sidelines complain about their jobs, complain about their boss, and then tell their kids not to complain when the coach tells them to do something. I've heard parents talk about how they took off work to go binge watch a Netflix series. They took off work. I heard it. And then I've also heard that same parent tell their kid to do their best. Always do your best. I've heard those same parents complain about other people and say, like, oh, yeah, she said that, but I know what she meant. I know what she did. And then I heard them tell their kids, don't care what other people say. You just go out there and you do it. So you're not trained. If you're not trained, forget it. You're never going to remember the principle when you need it. If you have to remember it, it's not trained in you. There's a difference between learning and training. Your members at your gyms, the first session or the first time they do any exercise for the first time, that's the time they learned it. The second time they had to do burpees, it's training. I tell the people in my program, you don't leave once you've learned everything. The first time you did it, you learned it. After that, it's training so that it can become a part of you. You know, so yeah, I think you you as a leader. I don't know if there's anything more important than training yourself, and everything follows. It's amazing.
I agree. One question I'd ask, and I think Adam, you were going here earlier. I think a lot of this in a perspective, I think is a perspective that sometimes people have not even thought about, which I think getting around others and changing your perspective is one of the, frankly, the best ways to become a better leader, whether that's of a team, individually, whatever that is. So thinking about those that are building a team and hiring a team and thinking through the level of the standard as you, right? They're setting that up. But then how do people transfer? Do you feel like it's just contagious? Like if your standard, if you make these changes, if you change your standard, right? Are you naturally, obviously you're going to bring others up in the room, but when you're bringing somebody new into a team, do you have any insight into like, how do you make sure you bring somebody in that isn't going to bring down that standard? How do you get them in and really get them up to the standard that you've put your team or yourself at?
So a winning company has the 4 R's lined up. Get the right people in the right seats, doing the right things right. Right people is about culture fit. Right seat is around their skill aligned with what you have them doing the right things, meaning based on what they need to be doing in their seat, they're focused on the right things. They're not focused on the things that they like the most, but the things that must be done, the highest impact activities. And then right, meaning the way that we do them here. You're not just checking the box, you're actually doing it in the way that we said. So you got to interview for those.
Right.
So all 4 of those R's have to have their own unique questions. Obviously the first one's around culture. So it could be something simple as like, what are you reading right now? Well, for ours, one of our values is stay hungry. You have your own values, right? But one of ours is stay hungry, which means if you're not reading right now, I go, okay, well, you listen to podcasts, you go to events, YouTube. Like, how are you learning? What are you learning regularly? Like, what are you learning right now? We're like, well, I was, about 6 months ago. Okay, not my fit. And it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just makes you a bad fit. Again, me on the Lakers, right? It doesn't make me a bad person, just bad fit. That we do this one question because one of ours is FIO and GSD, figure it out and get shit done. That's one of our values. So we have a question for that. And we ask it, somewhere in the middle. So the question goes like this. All right, Amanda. So really quick, I'm going to start my timer. It's going to be 1 minute. Okay. And I'm going to ask you a question and you have 1 minute to get it right. Okay. You ready?
Ready.
Start the timer. And I go, what are 10 things that a cat and a refrigerator have in common? Go. And then I start the clock. Now, usually it's 10 seconds of like they can't even get in that track. Like it's so hard. I don't care if they get 1 right. I don't care if they get 10. I don't care if they get 30. I don't care if they get 0. What I care is they didn't give up. You'll have people 30 seconds in and they've only got 1 and they go, I don't know. I don't know. I got nothing. You got nothing? No. Okay. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming in. You have other people that only have one, and they're at the 57-second mark, and they ask for more time. They're like, "Oh, can you give me 30 more seconds? Give me 30 more seconds." I want that guy. I'd rather have the guy that has one and asks for more time, or is really stressing to get that last one, like the next nine in the next 5 seconds, than the person that's got nine and gives up at the 30-second mark or at the 58-second mark, even worse,
Right.
right? So I just want to know that you actually, there's a gene in you that is determined to figure things out. So you got to ask questions for what you care about, culture wise.
I'm still thinking about my 10.
And you'll
Just
get stuff
kidding.
like they come in different shapes, they come in different colors.
I'm already
Um,
like thinking my first thing would be like, they're both really cool.
Yeah, they're really cool. You can keep them in a house. You can buy them at a store. You can sell them. You could have two that look the
That's
same.
awesome.
You have all different answers, right? I've heard some really interesting ones. I've heard stuff like there's food in them, right? But at the end of the day, I don't really care. I don't care what the answer is. It doesn't matter. Even if they're wrong, it doesn't matter. I just care that you are committed to getting this done.
Love that. Oh man. Well, hey, I know we're wrapping up here, so we'll kind of jump into one of the last few questions here. I think when in your journey, I'm just really curious, and this obviously this book is around people, so I want to stay there. When did you shift a mentality, or did you like have you always just been an amazing leader? Um, and that may be a thing, but my guess is that you've learned some things. So was there anything like any like aha moment that you had that really changed the trajectory of how you saw business, systems, people? Um, or is it something that you've just continued to get around and up level the people you're around? I'm curious because I've known or followed you for been in the same sphere I think probably for about 10 years, and have seen even have I think you had like 40 employees at Loud Rumor to now you guys pivoted business plans and all that. So I'm curious what that looks like for you.
Well, amazing leader is subjective, not objective. There's definitely people that would probably argue even today that I'm not the best leader. So that's fine. My job is not necessarily to be everyone's cup of tea. I've got my culture is my culture. It's mine in my house as well. The values are my values. I take them with me every company I go. I got that I start. I have those values. So number one, amazing leader is subjective. I'm an amazing leader for the people that are enjoying to be led in the way that I lead. That's number one. But I will say that even the style that I have now, I've definitely gotten better at. When it started to shift for me was I remember I lost an employee that I did it hurt. I didn't want to lose that one. And I lost them due to my leadership. That
Mm.
hurt. They didn't say that up front because they didn't want to hurt me. So they told me whatever they needed to tell me. I found out later from somebody else, and that hurt. And so when the nail hurts enough, you get up and you do something about it. And so I started, reading a lot of books on leadership. I started asking my team for help. Like, hey, listen, just so you know, I want to be a good leader, but just like you, I'm not going to be perfect. And the worst is not when I'm perfect and know it. It's when I'm perfect and I don't know and I walk out of the room oblivious. At least there's one thing that's true. You guys are aware that I care about being a good leader. That is true. What you also know is true that I'm going to mess up along the way. You know that to be true as well. And now the third truth is that I want you to come and talk to me to help me be better. That's my third truth. So now that we have those truths, my team is my best leadership course. They'll tell me the other day I had my camera off in a meeting, but I had my camera off because I was setting stuff up and I don't want to be a distraction. And one of my coaches, Nick, he goes, "Hey, Mike, can you turn your camera on?" And I go, "Well, I'm setting up the podcast and everything." He goes, "I know, but you're part of the team too. We want to see you." And I go, "Fair enough." Because I said that once. He knew I said that once. And I turned it on and I thanked him. I go, "Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you for the call out." Right. Like, because
It's cool.
he didn't do that because he knows the way the team feels about me and each other. He didn't do that to make me look bad. He didn't do that to one up me or anything like that. He did that because he probably felt that the team was wondering something and he wanted me to not have any ill perspective. And he gave me a chance to take ownership, and it was great. I did. And I feel like it did change that meeting from that moment. So that's an example. My team's my best leadership coach,
Love that.
but they know to manage up. So that's got to be there. So don't look to hire people and then hope that they do it. And if they don't do it, you're like, oh man, you're not doing it. You don't train the dog, you train the owner. And so your people have to know, just like my dog knows, this is where you go potty, this is where you sleep, this is where you don't go.
So
And
that, I mean, that does bring an interesting question. So what, like at a high level, what is when you do hire a new leader in your business, what does the first 30 to 60 days look like?
um, well, when we hire a leader, it's a very different process. When you say leader, you mean not behavioral, but you mean they're in a position to manage people.
Yeah, like whether it's maybe a facility and it's a facility manager, right? A studio manager type thing, or it's, even here at like headquarters, it'd be like a director level or
Yeah,
above.
that's fine. The only reason I asked that question is because we only hire leaders, but not everyone is a manager, meaning
Right.
you're. So we would have already hired someone that would have given us evidence that they can teach us something that we don't already know. They can give us a new perspective to leadership in the way that they answered certain questions in the interview. So we're actually learning from them in that first 30 to 60 days. Hey, how do you handle this? Hey, how would you handle that? The cool thing, what I've learned is people that are actually, trained managers, right? They at the very least know what to do. They don't always do it, but they know if you ask them the question, what should you do here? They know what to do. And so the cool thing is the best way to train them is to go, what do you typically do in a situation like this? And now they're retraining themselves because the best way to learn is to teach someone. So by asking that person, let's say you're my manager, and you're like, yeah, this guy, Tim, I don't really know if he's going to make it. Okay. So what do you typically do in a situation like that? Now, the funny thing is their instinct intuitively might be, I don't think he's a good fit. But now they're training, even though that wasn't what they were going to do or thinking about doing, their training would get them to say something like, I think I want to spend a little time with them, see if I can develop them and see if I can kind of challenge them, just have an honest conversation with them. And then from there, maybe do like a 90-day or a 60-day. Great. They already knew that answer, but their instinct may not have been there. And now that they said it, that you'll be surprised. That's their training. That was better training than if I said to them, well, let's do this. Work on developing them. Do that. So we hire people that already know the right answers and our questions we've already asked. You know how to manage. You know the fundamentals of management, maybe some advanced stuff. And so now it's easier to work with you because I just have to coach you that way.
Got it. Cool. Amanda,
All
what
right.
you got?
Well, I think we're wrapping. So I want to give you a chance, really, I think now to let everybody know, for one, where to find you, how to follow you. And then I think most importantly, because I think after this, everybody's going to want it, but where to go to buy your book, which is a couple days away.
Yeah, you can go to thestandardisyou.com. You can get a copy of the book there. I definitely recommend everyone on the team gets a copy and then you read it as a book club. Here's the deal. I don't know what it costs. I can't remember. It's probably like 15 or 20 bucks, whatever it is. If you do the math on it and you say, man, if my team could be better in just one thing and you got 5 copies, would it be worth the 75 to 100 bucks? Would it be worth it? Like, could you justify that expense? I don't make money off of books. You understand? Like, my niche is too small. There's no way anyone's going to be a millionaire off of a book to a niche of just gyms, and nor do I have interest in being. If I'm going to make money from the book, it's indirectly, meaning as you're reading it, you're going to hear stories of some of our clients and what they're doing with their A players, and then maybe you go, man, I want to be around them. So I would recommend getting a copy for everyone in the team, everyone reading it, standardisyou.com. And you can follow me to kind of see some more of these philosophies at Mike Arce Live. It's my Instagram handle. It's where I post a lot of stuff. Or you can go to freegymtraining.com and that'll take you to a lot of stuff there as well.
Mm. Well, thank you, Mike. This has been absolutely a pleasure. I mean, I know Adam would echo it as well. Like, not only getting to know you over the years, but also like I'm super proud of you taking what's passionate, and I think you've done it for the right reasons and the purpose and everything you said today. I think even from like the perspective shift to really what they can get out of this for them as a team collectively, but I also think individuals, I think when you say the standard is you, some of the stories you told, like I can personally relate with. Like, I don't know that I would have seen that perspective. I think a lot of us can hit home in that. So I'm really excited to dive in with our team here at headquarters as well.
Well, Mike, this was amazing as expected, and appreciate you giving the time to kind of share some of your wisdom. So until next time, we will see you guys on the turf.